What is going on, guys and gals? Referee Jake Clemons here, and you're listening to Wrestling Cheers, where everyone knows your name.
Taking your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially when your name is Jasmine Clearwater. This is Wrestling Cheers, where we like to talk about things going on in Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene. We preview shows, we used to review shows, and sometimes we have interviews along the way. This is an interview with Referee Jake Clemons. I'm your host, Justin Summers, and Wrestling Cheers is brought to you by Midwest Territory. Please rate, review, and subscribe your ever listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. Like I said, this is an interview with Referee Jake Clemons. Now, I don't have him on the line right now because we recorded this at Old Wrestling. We recorded this after the show. This is something that I even talk about kind of like early on this interview, that this was years coming. I probably should have sat down with him early on, but it didn't help that like early on in, this podcast when it was the Ohio Indie Report, I really wasn't doing interviews and all that. And that's kind of like why I missed some opportunities to get some really good interviews, and Jake was one of them. It's kind of one of those people I always thought was not necessarily I thought was always going to be around, but it's like, I'll get to them later because it's easier to get to them than someone else, especially when I started doing interviews. And then right around the time he went to WWE was when I was trying to get him on. And he was very hesitant for most of that year going into it because he knew what his job status was at that time. And he didn't want to screw anything up. He didn't want to take any chances because obviously with these interviews with me, we're not talking about dirt. We're not, looking to bury people. We're just two people having fun. And then we will have respectful conversations. So he took his precautions and didn't come on the show before his contract. Then when he was released, I tried to get him on, and he was also very hesitant on doing so. And I perfectly understand. Like I said, I'm not going to be talking dirt. We're not going to do any of that stuff. This whole interview, we don't talk much wrestling. We kind of talk about our relationship and how we've been friends for many years. One thing we didn't talk about, there was actually a few year stretch that like Jake and I were not friends. That probably didn't help with the whole thing of like not getting him on the podcast. But we eventually buried the hatchet, and in all honesty, like I've pretty much forgot about that stretch. It's something that it could have came up in this interview, but I was concentrating on a lot of other things to where I did not think about it until afterwards. So this is pretty much two friends. Like I said, we got to talk about our history. We talk about sports and a few other things. And I really hope you enjoy this interview with Referee Jake Clemons. All right, we are back here on the podcast, and this is a long time coming. Very long time coming. Could have been on the podcast years ago, but I never asked him, so that part was my fault. And then by the time I wanted to get him on, he was a little caught up. But we got Jake Clemons.
Hi,
dude. It's been a long time in general.
It really has. I think that's. I wouldn't even begin to guess the timeline, to be honest.
I mean, because like I was doing the show, Ohio Indie Report, and like you were around then. And everything, like we go back that far. Because actually when I started coming around.
Yeah. When did you start coming around?
2011.
Okay, so I started in 2010. So that was Turner's Hall.
Me or you?
You.
I was not Turner's Hall. No.
What was your first? You were at the Streetsboro show for PWO.
Yep, that was
the first. Yes. Mm-hmm. That had the mechanical bull.
Yes.
I liked that venue because it was like 25 minutes from my parents' house. Well, my parents' house.
I liked how close it was to where I was living too.
Yeah. Oh my
gosh. It was a spacious venue.
Yeah, it was huge, and it had a huge, I want to say a bigger locker room
Okay.
It wasn't too crazy, but I remember that. Oh my gosh. Wow.
And that was the last time Brody Lee was in PWO.
That was after Resolution 4?
Yes. It was the 4-year anniversary show.
Yeah, it was. Oh my goodness. What made you go to that show?
Okay.
Start interviewing you here.
Yeah, it's fine. it was a whirlwind of things. It was a bunch of things that like lined up at once. There was the first thing, I was starting to get into Colt's podcast, and I got into it months earlier, and I was listening to some of the backlog episodes, and like I would hear like, oh, upcoming events, AI wrestling, blah 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 blah, and then also like I started doing podcasting 12 years ago last month, and a guy on one of the shows that I started on, he was talking about independent wrestling, which at that point was crazy to hear about, and like he was talking about guys like Johnny Gargano and Doug Matt Cross. So whenever I came around to like finding out about them, like, oh shit, they're Cleveland, and then on top of all of that, the CM Punk Gregory Iron thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's from Cleveland too.
Yeah.
And then I took a big focus on the local scene, and I think it was like I looked into AIW and PWO at the time.
Yep.
And there was a couple shows I wanted to go to, but it was like, oh, I work that day. I can't go. I can't go this, can't go that. I almost went to They Live, like right around that time. Like
wow.
They Live, and
that was BJ Whitmer, Davey Richards, and I want to say AR Fox and Uha Nation. That was at the Puritas Church.
Yes.
Wow. I can't believe I remember that.
That is correct.
Yeah. I was going to AAW at the time with Gregory Iron, and I had to miss that show that Punk went to the ring and put him over on because I had to work.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I was working at a grocery store at the time, and they scheduled me to work even though I asked the day off. So, whatever.
I remember that era, Jake Clemons working at that grocery store.
Shout out Acme number 6, Norton, Ohio.
But, yeah, dude. We've went to shows before.
We have.
One in particular.
It was Heroes and Legends.
Yes, the first one.
The first one, because before that, it was Jason Maples. He was running EWF, and Gregory Iron, myself, and Joe Dombrowski went to AAW the night before, and the night after was EWF. It was the X8, and the big draw on that show was Matt Hardy.
Okay.
And it was in this gym. It was a really cool tournament, really cool concept. I remember Joe Dombrowski was selling canned value time mushrooms.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember this era.
Yeah. And Sugar Dunkerton signed one, and we auctioned it off, and it got like, I don't remember what the dollar amount was, but I vividly remember that trip. Wow. That was the first EWF show I had. EWF, I think that's the initials, evolved into Heroes and Legends.
Yeah.
And that's when we went, because I don't remember. I think you were going, and you're just like, let's write. I don't remember how it came up, but we traveled together.
I know how it came up. You asked me to go with you.
Yeah. I think because Pedro was going too, and I don't know why, but like Pedro and Benjamin Boone and someone else was in like a different car, and I don't remember why.
Yeah.
But there was like a different car, and I was like, oh, this is weird. And I was like, okay, I'll just drive myself, whatever. And then you went with me, and I remember we got to like Ashland, and I was so
right before Ashland,
tired.
on the way back, yes.
I was so tired. I was like, can you please drive home? And I felt terrible asking you because I was so stinking tired.
Right there at the Perkins and the Grandpa's Cheese Barn?
Yep. Yeah, shout out Grandpa's Cheese Barn. I remember that. I passed that on the way up here today. So now I live in Columbus. But yeah, that show was so cool to me because Pedro's dream was always to announce for Demolition.
Fuck yeah.
And I don't remember how it came about, but he ended up getting to do it. And I remember, I don't know if I have the video. Someone probably does. Yeah. But I was sitting under the hard cam because I was like, I really want to get a good shot of this. So I like run out there, and as soon as Demolition hits, he looks directly at my camera and gets like the biggest smile on his face. And like,
I think he nods too. He's like this is it, right here.
Yeah, he definitely did. And that was the best I've ever heard Pedro announce anyone ever. And he ran down like all their accomplishments and was just like, I love seeing people live their dream. And Pedro's done so much for me that like that was like easily like a top 5 moment in wrestling for me, probably top 2.
Yeah, that was my first wrestling road trip because, like I said, you asked me. You were just like, "Hey, will you ride with me?"
Yeah.
Which I did think it was weird later. You were like, "Hey, now give me gas money," and I'm like, "You asked me to come with you."
Did I? Oh,
yes, you did.
A dick.
Throwing you under the bus now.
Can I cuss on here?
But
can I curse?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like a dick. Yeah.
I mean, obviously now I don't care.
No, I feel bad.
I think the worst part was I was unemployed at the time.
Oh, okay. Now that makes me feel worse. Jeez.
But I also went there and like got Bret Hart's autograph and everything. So I spent money.
That show was loaded too.
Dude.
Like that tag match was like Demolition, Jimmy Snuka.
Oh God, yeah. Was Virgil in that match, or was that another match?
He was in that match. Yeah, of course he was.
Tatanka
wrestled Drew Skills earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. He did have a one-on-one match now that
I remember I reffed Greg Iron and Ben Boone.
I remember that.
And then Colt Cabana and someone else. I remember one of the refs there. Oh my goodness. It was so funny because obviously everyone's there to ref a legend. The only thing I wanted to work with on the show was Greg and Ben because I had a relationship with them prior. And I'm like, I like being in there with my friends.
Yeah.
And then there was like a match with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I was like, do you mind if I work with the Hacksaw? I've never got to work with him. Ref goes, yeah, actually, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do the main event. And then I'm pretty sure he ref like every legend on the show. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, hey kid, Colt Cabana's a legend. You ever worked with him? And I was just like, yeah, in 3 different states, in 3 different companies. And I was just like, I love Colt Cabana, but it was just like, it felt like so like demoralizing to me that it was like, oh, okay, cool, I guess. Like, it is what it is now, but that was, what year was that? That was 2012. 12? So that was over 10 years ago. I feel like an old man. Ugh.
But I remember the Hacksaw match. I was sitting with a now WWE employee, and I'm not going to say his name.
We'll say it off the air. Bleep it. Who was it? Oh, okay. Yeah. Shout out.
Yeah, we counted the rest holds.
Oh,
in that match.
How many were there?
I don't remember. I just remember counting them.
I remember he wrestled Troy Miller.
I have no idea who that
Don't
is.
ask. He was an Indiana guy. Don't ask why I remember it was Hacksaw and Troy Miller. That's crazy. My wife's always like, you remember the weirdest things? And I'm like, well, I mean, whatever. It's good, I guess.
Yeah. Do you remember her birthday?
What?
Do you remember her birthday?
My wife's birthday?
Yeah.
February 25th.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Our wedding, 4 days after mine. Mine's February 21st, and then our wedding anniversary is December 28th.
See, I did the smart thing. Our wedding anniversary is October 30th.
There you go. Yeah.
I wouldn't forget it yet anyway, but
yeah. I'm bad at remembering my friends' birthdays. I have one friend who he remembers all of our birthdays, and like we'll quiz him on it. We'll be like, all right, when's my birthday? He's like, February 21st. All right, like when's Chad's birthday? When's John's birthday? When's Shay's birthday? Shout out to all my friends, by the way. They won't listen to this, but yeah, it's crazy. He remembers everyone's birthday. I
remember one friend's birthday in particular, only because it was the same day that Biggie died, March 9th.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And there's a lyric.
Same year or?
Not same year.
Oh, I was going to say, I was like, oh my gosh.
No. He, there's a rapper by the name of Cannabis that has a line in a song, Second Round Knockout, says the greatest rapper alive died on March 9th.
Oh.
So whenever I see March 9th, I instantly connected to that lyric and my friend's birthday, and I will text him, and he's like, man, you never forget. I'm like, dude, I've explained it to him, like, I see the date, and it just clicks. I'm like, March 9th.
Facebook always hooks me up. I always feel bad. Either Facebook or my Twitter timeline, I see everyone. I'm like, oh, if I'm like close friends with them, I'll text them or DM them or whatever. But
yeah, there is that cheat with social media, which oh yeah, I remember your birthday. But then there's those people that like for the longest time, my friend was not on social media.
Oh.
So I never got those types of notifications, but I still remembered it.
Yeah.
And then what's crazy is my birthday's later in the month, and there's times that like I'm waiting if he remembers. And like there was like 1 year, I think it was like maybe last year, it was like 9 o'clock. There's other like 9 o'clock at night,
like a late night
and
one.
he's like, oh, I almost forgot this. Yeah. It's gonna be funny next year because my birthday's on Easter, and we see each other on Easter. And
what's your birthday? March
31st.
Okay.
Every so many years, it falls on Easter.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to see if he remembers that day.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that trip was crazy because going back to the Fort Wayne thing, because that's kind of like what got me kind of pushed towards the way of truck driving.
Yeah.
I had other things prior, but it was just like, here I am now. Yeah. Now it's like, dude, I've driven to Fort Wayne for a show since then. It wasn't Heroes and Legends. It was the one show that Greg helped with the first show. I forget what it's off the top of my head. The first show had John Cena Sr., Candace,
Yes,
Johnny.
yes. I was on that show as
Warriors
well.
for Wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so funny because I remember we had to do we were in a car. It was myself, Johnny, Candace, Tommaso, and John Cena Sr.
Yeah.
And it was just like so surreal that we were like I kept looking at Johnny. I was like, this is so strange. Like, it was awesome, but it was just like, what other life is this like group of people ever going to be in the same car, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun show. It was at a huge gym.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. I forget because I think Johnny and Tommaso wrestled Greg and Zach.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. I think Candace was Candace with us, or it may have been Greg.
Candace was there. I have pictures of her that day.
You know what? This could segue.
And
good.
Believe it or not, remember because at that show they had someone win, bringing out Greg and Zach, and I think Tommaso and I can't remember Tommaso or Johnny.
Yep.
But a friend of mine and his daughter won to come out with Zach and Greg.
Oh wow!
So that was like their first independent show.
That's crazy. Wow.
And like, what a show to like go to, because that was, look at the people that were on that card that are something.
I keep a log of every match I've ever done, and in the time that it took you to tell that story, I found that match and what else was on that show. So there was I believe Gavin Quinn versus Nate Matson. There's Lewis Linden versus Ricky Shane Page versus Palmer Cruz versus Nick Cutler versus Marion Fontaine versus Shane Mercer. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa versus Greg Ryder and Zach Gowen. And then the last match I believe I did, this should still be the same show, was Desmond Xavier and Josh Alexander. I believe that's the same show. I could be wrong. I don't think it is. I don't
think Josh Alexander was on that show.
That was a super indie show then. Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly what that was. So yeah, Scramble was good. I remember that. Yeah. That was match 61, 62, 63 of 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people do that of like
Pedro again. Pedro told me when I first started, he goes, keep a log of everything you've ever done because you can look back and be like, oh my goodness. And I've lost my first 2 years because they were on a laptop, and I just never emailed them to myself.
Okay.
So I kept a log of it, but I have the count by the year. So my first year I did 138, which was 2010. 2011 was 204. As of tonight, which would have been old wrestling, I am at 2,426 matches, and that was 39 matches on the current year.
Jesus.
Yeah. Pedro told me when I first started, he goes, write everything down or put it in and I started doing my laptop. I did like a Word doc, and I just put, XYZ versus XYZ.
Yeah.
And, I didn't put who won the match. I didn't put who, whatever. So I transitioned that when I got an iPhone to my iPhone notes. So now I just, every time I have an assignment, I look on there. I'm like, okay, doing this. And there was this show that I did for Fontaine where I had to text him. I was like, hey, what was the card? Because I forgot. And this was like 2 weeks after the show. And he's like, oh, here, yeah. And I was like, whew. I was like, thank goodness, because I almost missed some. But yeah, people were like, oh, it's so hard. It's like, no, just do it after your match.
Yeah, if you do it right after, it's fresh memory.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And I update the matches that I do. I update my total count, and then I started doing how many matches I have to go because I'm trying to get to 3,000, and I think it's like 574 until I get to 3,000. I'm checking right now.
It almost sounds like you should change it from a notes app to a spreadsheet.
That would take so much time.
Well, at where you're at now, but it almost seems like a spreadsheet would.
There was a ref I know that did it, and he would put the match, who won, what the finish was, what the company, the location, the venue, and then what he got paid. Yeah, I was like, that's too much for me. Yeah, that's too much. I just want to put who wrestled.
It would be rewarding in the end of like being able to see, like, you could like, just a nerd thing of like, okay, you could like create a graph of like your pay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And be like, yeah, my first year, I was averaging this much, and now like
it would that would be cool. Yeah.
But that's where you're at now, like to redo all that is just
it'd be impossible.
Like rewriting or like handwriting a full book.
Honestly, yeah. Because I can't even think now. Yeah. It'd be.
But dude, like back when we like first met PWO and AIW. That's kind of a time that I miss, but it's only because it like you had two products in the same area that were viable for their own reasons. And like the thing that I loved about PWO is like, if you were someone like me when I was first getting into independent wrestling, what a fucking place to start. Literally, and I've always talked about this. The very first match I saw on PWO TV. Do you know what it is? It was a best of Resolution 4, one of the two clip shows.
Gosh. Yeah. The first match on that card was that the 4, it was a 3-way maybe? It would have been Bobby Beverly, Gory, and Facade, because it was supposed to be a 4-way with DJZ, but I think he had obligations with Impact at the time.
Yeah. But maybe. No, that was not the match.
Okay,
because it was the clip show only showed you like so much of a match, or maybe they did show you all of the match depending.
Yeah, Joe Dombrowski wasn't giving that away for free. I love you, Joe. But.
Yeah, he's smart. Back in the Go Fight Live days, because I want to say that was on Go Fight Live, which was awful.
Yeah,
but it was I believe maybe the second clip show, and the first match that they showed you was Johnny Gargano versus M-Dog versus Josh Prohibition.
Yep.
What a fucking match to start with.
That match was insane.
I go back to watch it every few years.
So that show was cool for me because obviously, you know, I got to work at Jacob's Pavilion, which is I think now Nautica Pavilion.
Yeah.
So that show was cool for me. Resolution 4. Also, Joe Dombrowski put me in with Tito Santana and Nikki Valentino, which I was not ready for, and then he put me in with Kevin Nash and Omega Aaron Draven against Marion Fontaine and God rest his soul, Brody Lee. I was so like starstruck by Kevin Nash. Like I have 2 cats, and one of my cats' name is their names are Hall and Nash, and today's their gotcha day.
I was kind of going to bring that up. If you want,
they'll never listen. They'll never listen to this, but shout out to Hall and Nash. And this also segues into so that was like the first weekend me and my wife spent together. We were dating at the time. She lived in Columbus, and she told me, she goes, "You're gonna have to come and pick me up." And I just go, "Oh no." I was like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Man, I've never driven to Columbus." My parents are like, "You be safe." Like they're just being parents. Like, text us when you get there. Like, you know, don't drive too fast. Watch for cops. Everything under the sun. So I took their car because my car at the time there was no way it was making it. It was a 98 Ford Escort. There's no way I was making it. So I take their Saturn View at the time, pick her up, meet her parents. You know, hello. All right, hey, I'm gonna take your daughter 2 hours north. They're like, "What do you have planned for the weekend?" I was like, "Well, you know, we're gonna go to dinner and meet my parents. I have to work tonight, by the way." I'll get to that in a second. And then, you know, they're like, "Okay, cool." And I was like, "Oh," and then we're going to go to a wrestling show. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And they didn't understand. But so, you know, we start making the drive up. Me and she's my girlfriend time, but she's my wife now.
Yeah.
And we get to Akron, and you know, we go to lunch or whatever, and then I'm like, "All right, hey, I have to go to work." And she's like, "Okay." So she's at my house, and my parents aren't home because they're both at work. So like, this girl that I've known for like 3 months is in my parents' house. This is just an executive decision on my end. Dude, I'm not saying she would have, but hypothetically, she could have robbed you. Yes, yeah, it could have been very bad. Luckily, it's been very good. So my dad comes home from work, and she, I guess, was just sitting on my bed in my bedroom and goes, "Hi, I'm Katie." And that's how my dad met my wife now. And same with my mom. And then, I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been, yeah. And then they all went out to eat that night because I worked like 3 to 10 or something like that. So they all went out to eat that night. And I kind of like threw my now wife into the fire, and I was like, "Hey, here's my family." And luckily, like, they have a great relationship and everything. But that after that night is when we went to Resolution together. And I was just like, "Hey, like, I want you to see what I do." And she's like, "Okay." And she went with my mom, my dad, and my dad's friend at the to Resolution. And then after, I'm like, "I'm gonna take her home." Okay. And my mom and dad are like, "Hey, do you want us to come with you?" I was like, "No, I got this." Psst, whatever. So it would have been from Cleveland to Columbus back, which is fine. But like, it was late, and my wife just nudges me, and she's like, "Have your parents go with us." I was like, "Okay." We stopped at McDonald's. I ate the most amount of McDonald's I've ever had in my entire life. I can still tell you the order. this is again where my wife's like, I don't know how you remember this. I had 20 nuggets, a McChicken, a burger, a large fry, a large sweet tea, a hot fudge sundae, and an apple pie. I was so hungry. That was also when I was very skinny, and I was amazing. So I eat all that. I pass out in the back seat. I wake up, drop my wife off. See you later. We start coming back, dude. We broke down. I'm pretty sure at that Perkins where, yeah. So we break down and like we get off the exit and everything, and we're just like, what is going on? It's like probably like 1 a.m. or something. My uncle drives to come grab us, and I was just like, man, I was like, my wife's so smart. I'm like, thank God my parents were with us. I'm like, if that was me, I wouldn't know what to do. I would just been like, okay, just leave me and we'll, ask Shabula or whatever. But yeah, it was very trial by fire for my wife.
First weekend together. Wow.
Yeah, for the first weekend. Yeah. And
first weekend, just like meeting parents and everything. Because you said 3 months.
Yeah. Oh, so funny. Because she was in New York for like an internship. And I could be getting those timelines wrong, but yeah.
How long did you guys date before marriage?
She's going to kill me. That would have been what, 2011?
Yeah.
So we got engaged. I don't remember when we got engaged. I'm going to have to look at my phone. Yeah, we got engaged.
Kind of like what we were talking about earlier. I could easily tell you when I got engaged because it was on Halloween.
Oh, so bad. I ran up. So our engagement was funny because like she was living with a roommate at the time, and I just texted her roommate on random Thursday. I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to propose to her this weekend. She goes, what? I just go, yeah, hey, here's my budget. Please, stick within this budget. We got engaged on November 17th, 2018. So we dated for a while before we got engaged. So 7 years. And then we got married in, so COVID has like crushed my timeline of years. So I forget everything, but I obviously remember the date, but yeah, so we got engaged, and I texted her roommate, and I was just like, yes, just stay within this budget, please. And she's like, are you serious? 2021 is when we got married. And she goes, are you serious? I was like, yeah. So I just went to K with one of my friends, and I was like, hey, that looks cool. Picked it out, drove down, and then like we went to, oh man, what's the brunch spot? I forget what it's called. We went there, and I'm like, I have the ring in my like coat pocket. I'm like sweating. I was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. So she comes back, and I don't even know what it looks like. And she comes in, and she turns around, and I'm like on a knee. I'm like, hey, I wanted to ask you something. She goes, oh my gosh, whatever. So 7 years, we dated for 7 years before we got married, before we got engaged, and then we got married in 2021. So we were engaged for 3 years, I want to say. Again, I just said the date. I literally just said it. So 2018, 19, 20, 21, 3 years before we got married. Yeah. Would have been sooner, but yeah.
I mean, it's crazy like that you did it like, oh, I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to do it this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was sitting at my job. I worked in Stowe at the time. And I was just sitting there, and I was like, I had like a very much like now or never moment. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
And I just texted her, and I go, hey, here's what's going to happen. And she goes, oh, okay, cool. And yeah, just on the fly, I was like, hey, let's get married. Yeah.
Yeah. With me, I bought the ring in August.
Okay.
And proposed on Halloween.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you had it.
I had it for a while.
I had it like 3 days.
And then like I divulged the plan to her like after like this is how everything went.
Yeah.
Because what we ended up doing that October was like we watched like a bunch of horror movies.
Of course. Yeah.
And the whole thing was like we would end on Halloween and we'd watch Nightmare Before Christmas, one of her favorite movies, if not it's between that and Beetlejuice. Okay. And then at the end when Jack and Sally had that last song.
Yeah.
And then like right at the end, I propose.
Oh.
And it was more
smooth
like
operator.
It was more one-on-one intimate.
Yeah. Oh.
Because like, a lot of people do the romantic gestures like or something spontaneous. I wanted to do something just like she didn't necessarily see coming, and I wanted it to fit to her. And I bought her a casket ring box.
Oh, cool! Wow,
that had Jack and Sally on it.
Oh my gosh,
with our initials and the date I proposed.
Jeez, dude! Wow,
like I was able to do all of that without her knowing.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
Though I halfway blew my cover because as a joke before the movie, I had a ring pop and I asked her to marry me.
It's foreshadowing.
Kind of.
It
was a little bit like that.
Oh my gosh.
A swerve, some might say. And she even said, like, I kind of thought you might have done something afterwards because you did that. But I'm like, the joke was, because I'd always joked with her, like, I would give her a ring pop to propose to her.
Right.
Or something. So, so that kind of thing. But
yeah.
It's great that you guys have been along. Like, you've been with her the whole time I've known you. Like, I've never known you.
Yeah. We had a little split up where, this is probably people who are just like, why are we tuning into this? We had a little split up where she wanted me to better myself because I wasn't bettering myself. I was just fine being where I was in my life. And then, like, I started bettering myself, and she's like, okay, I see it. Like, I see you bettering yourself. And she's like, all right. And that's fine. You know, she knew what she wanted, and she's always known what she's wanted. Yeah. So, you know, luckily I fit that criteria.
And you've kept it going for so long.
Yeah. She lets me do this, and
though I remember a time when Jake Clemons did not drink.
Oh yeah, I've been shout out PBR. COVID changes a man. That's a funny transition because I was sitting at my job, so I don't care if people know this. Whatever. I work for the Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University.
Go Bucks. I won't tell people what I do there, but I would just say I'll just be openly. I work for the Ohio State University.
I'll tell you what he does. He doesn't use the O. He doesn't use the M letter during the 1 week in November. That's what he does.
During rivalry week. And it's a thing, too, around campus. There's still, like, if there's super high places to reach on campus, you'll still see, like, X's. It's so funny.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, like the red X. It's hilarious. People don't believe it and think it's stupid, but whatever. It makes me laugh. So who cares?
It's a rivalry thing. Yeah. Like, I'm not big into college sports. So the Ohio State-Michigan thing, might get into it because of the Ohio aspect of it. Like, I had pride for my state, especially when I went over the road and I learned, like, this is a way representing, like, not only where I'm from, because I could do those Cleveland stuff, but, like, Ohio State. Because if I go down to Alabama, they don't give a damn about the Browns.
No.
But if I wear Ohio State stuff, then they care.
Yes.
But even with that, but, like, there's other sports or other teams. Like, I remember one point, because I am a Bears fan, where our rivalry week with the Packers, like, the whole thing was don't eat cheese.
Yeah, I believe it.
And it wasn't a strict thing, but I remember, like, that time there was like whole thing, do not eat cheese all week. And I'm like, okay, it's a thing.
Yeah. And I think Ohio State and Michigan is, I would say, probably top 3 rivalry in sports. I think the Yankees and the Red Sox are obviously up there. Maybe Lakers and Celtics, Ohio State, Michigan, Duke, North Carolina. There's probably one missing.
I say my bias, but Packers, Bears.
Yeah, Packers, Bears, Steelers, Browns, because we're in the area and we see that. Like,
Steelers fans. If you say that the rivalry, that the rivals for the Browns or the Steelers, or Steelers rivals or the Browns, like, Steelers fans get pissed. They're like, no, it's not. It's the Ravens, and I'm like, no. You can have more than one rivalry.
Yeah, I agree.
You have a main rivalry, which right now, or maybe I don't know as much right now, but, like, previously it was Ravens Steelers. Like, that was the number one dagger on the schedule. Like, this is it. But you still had those inner division rivalries. Like, that's still a thing. It's still a rivalry.
If I was a Browns fan, I would hate the Ravens more because Art Modell took the team to Baltimore. Like, I understand Pittsburgh is closer. And they have a history thing. Yeah, it's a proximity thing, and they have a history. But I was like, man, he took my team to a different city, whatever. But
we have a reason to hate every team in the league. That's the blood rival. That's the Steelers.
Yep.
The Bengals. I always say that's our little brother.
Yep.
Literally, Paul Brown. Wow. Paul Brown left us.
As I'm wearing a Jamar Chase. I don't like the Bengals. I just like Jamar Chase.
Yeah, but he leaves the organization and starts the Bengals.
Yep.
And I always say little brother, which I've heard Bengals fans, like, they're like, oh, we're not your little brother. I'm like, no.
They were little brother for so many years.
I'm not meaning like we're picking on you. It's just like our lineage, like, we're connected to the same dude. Mm-hmm. Like, you're our little brother. And then the Ravens, they're the old Browns. And so we have a reason for everything.
And you should hate the Broncos because John Elway was the greatest quarterback to ever walk the face of the earth, and the drive and the fumble. And I wasn't even alive for that.
Listen, Jake. Everybody didn't just pick a random helmet to pick their fandom, which we can get into it. That's actually one of my favorite stories.
Yeah. Let me finish real quick on why I started consuming alcohol and broke edge. Okay. So I was working at the time. I still work for the Ohio State University. Again, won't say what I do, but I do work there. I will say I love my job. I'm not saying that because this is public. I love my job. I love what I do.
Yeah. You want to keep stuff private? That's
So
respectable.
I was listening to, I believe it was Pardon My Take by Barstool Sports. People can think what they want about Barstool Sports. I enjoy that podcast. And I believe CJ McCollum was on there, which shout out to CJ McCollum. Went to high school at Glen Oak, which is in Canton. Got to see him play in high school. Went to Lehigh, beat Duke in the NCAA tournament, and then went to the Portland Trailblazers and became a very, very good NBA player.
Yeah.
So he was talking about the bubble. Because Big Cat and PFT are the hosts of Pardon My Take. And they're like, what do you do in the bubble? And they're like, we just play video games, we play cards, and we drink wine. And I was like, interesting. And I was like, I don't think, as I'm drinking beer, I was like, I don't think I would like beer. So I went to my wife, and I was like really strict straight edge. And I was just like, hey, I had already gotten like my approval from WWE at this point. Because this is like in the, I wouldn't say like the middle of the pandemic, but like I had already gotten the news that I'm going to WWE. Mm-hmm. And I just tell her, I was like, hey, do you want to go celebrate with a glass of wine tonight? And she's like, I would love that. And I'm like, perfect. And so we go to Cooper's Hawk.
Did she get like wide eyes? Like
she was like, God. Yeah, she was like, because I was so strict straight edge for so long. And she was like, she's like, are you feeling okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, I just want to try it. I was like, if I don't like it, I don't like it.
Yeah. And
then we got like a sampler of stuff, and I was like, I always heard Tech Nine talk about drinking Pinot Noir with a member of the Doors. Obviously, it wasn't Jim Morrison when Jim Morrison was the Doors, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
that's the inspiration of John Morrison.
Yeah, it was Ray Manzarek, I think, from the Doors. I could be pronouncing the last name wrong, but he was talking about like how he used a sample of Strange. I think it's Strange Days on one of Tech Nine's albums, and he was talking about how he went and met with Ray Manzarek, and they drank wine together. This could also completely be. This is like from my memory. This could be completely wrong, but he's like, yeah, we drank Pinot Noir together. So we get to Cooper's Hawk, and I'm like, I want to try Pinot Noir. My wife was like, you sure? She's like, that's pretty bold. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. Tried it, and I was like, ooh, like, this is great. And ever since then, I'm a big fan of red wine, Pinot Noirs to be specific. It just all started with me listening to a podcast talking about the NBA players drinking wine in the bubble. Very weird. I don't know. My life is weird.
What a story of like, this is how you started drinking?
Dude,
mine was like I was a teenager type.
Yeah. I was a teenage anarchist. But speaking of weird stories, just keep rolling in. Let's talk about the football helmet one, because this is
like I said, I've heard it. You talk about it a lot. It's unique, and if you just think about it, like, what if there was one change? Like, what if something else caught your eye?
So the story goes. So my parents, when I was younger, my mom is a Steelers fan, diehard, like loves the Steelers. My dad is a Raiders fan. He's a very like wishy-washy Raiders fan. Like, he loves them, but like the Raiders stink, and he knows it. Because every time they draft someone, like they drafted Amari Cooper, he's like, well, he's going to be gone in 2-3 years, and then like he's gone in like 2-3 years. When they drafted Henry Ruggs, he was mad about that, and we see how that panned out because he wanted Jerry Jeudy. So when I was little, my brother's 2 years older than me. My parents like somehow got all of the logos for the NFL helmets, and they sat them in front of us. We were like 3 or 4, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And they're like, all right, pick a team.
Okay, not all of them.
Yes.
There was at least one.
Because the Browns weren't a team in 96 when I picked my team. I was 4. So I didn't have a choice.
Wait. Okay.
I don't think the Browns were a team in 96.
That might have been like the
Someone fact check us. But my brother's favorite color at the time was green. Mm-hmm. So my parents like sat in front of him. The Eagles, the Packers, Jets, Dolphins, because they had like that aqua weird green.
Yeah.
And whoever else, if you, I think maybe the Jaguars. I don't know if the Jaguars were a team at the time, but like
that was right around the time
any team that had a little bit of green in them set in front of him. My brother, I guess, just looked and was like that one and picked the Eagles. Been a diehard Eagles fan since. He had like my brother had like a Ty Detmer jersey, like Bobby Hoying, Deuce Staley. So like my brother is like diehard Eagles fan. And then for myself, I love the color orange. Still love the color orange to this day. So my parents set in front of me the Broncos, the Dolphins because they have a stripe of orange, the Buccaneers because I think this was when they were the peach color,
like creamsicle.
Yeah, and then Bengals, whoever was orange. And apparently, again, like my brother, I just looked and I go, that's my team. And my dad, being a Raiders fan, just goes, ugh, So I picked the Broncos and I just stick with them. And I had growing up, I had an Elway jersey. Terrell Davis is my favorite football player of all time. I had Champ Bailey. I had Clinton Portis. I had Demaryius Thomas. God rest his soul as well. And then currently I have Patrick Surtain. I'm so happy I didn't get a Russ jersey. Ugh. But
didn't get a Tebow jersey?
No, I wanted one so bad. When they beat the Steelers in that AFC wildcard game.
How was that game with at your household?
So my mom and I always laugh about this. So she always would sit in her chair to my right. And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm sitting there. And Tebow gets the ball and I think it was a play fake and he hits Demaryius. And I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, he's gone. He's for sure gone. He's going to score. And I'm just sitting on the couch, not because I'm like, my mom's pissed at this point. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. So I just sit there. And then I'm like, I just put my head in my hands. I'm like, oh my gosh, we did it. Because I think we were the underdog at the time. I think we were the wild card.
I feel like
because I feel like Pittsburgh wasn't a wild card at that point, and we definitely, I don't think, won the division.
No, I think the Broncos. I don't say struggled to get in, but got in up low end.
So I wait till my mom gets up. So she used to have a kickback where she would kick her feet up. So she kicks the chair down. She stands up. She walks over. She's like, good game. You guys deserve it. And I just shake my mom's hand, and then I wait, and I just go, yeah, and I scream so loud, and I get down over by my dad's chair, and I just do the Tebow, and I'm rubbing it in at this point because I'm waiting for her to give me the blessing so she doesn't unalive me. But she was so pissed, and I was so happy, and then we got shit pumped by the Steelers or by the Patriots. I think in the second round, yeah. But then Tom Brady only had a losing record against one team ever in his history, and it was the good old Denver Broncos, because we got our comeuppance when we won the Super Bowl 50. Yeah, which that was another fun story because again, I'm sitting in the same exact spot for Super Bowl 50, and as soon as Von Miller sacked Cam Newton, and I forget who recovered it. I want to say it was Sylvester Williams, but I don't think it was. It wasn't DeMarcus Ware. It wasn't Derek Wolfe. It was someone on our defensive line. It was one of our defensive tackles. Anyway, they score, and I was just like, game over. I texted my close group of friends. And I was like, game over. I'm like, it's over. And I was like, Cam is rattled. And then later he fumbles again, doesn't dive on the ball. But I always think that's so cool because as a Broncos fan, I'm like, dude, there's one Super Bowl 50, and the Broncos have it. No one can take that away from them. True. They've had their struggles since, which is fair. But then
there was that Super Bowl before that too.
Oh, dude, brutal. As soon as
I was rooting for the Broncos that game, and I remember watching it and literally how bad it started off. I was like, Peyton's got this. This is Peyton fucking Manning.
Yep. And it
never happened.
As soon as, and I still remember the name, Manny Ramirez, not the baseball player, snapped it over Peyton's head. I go, we're dead. Because that was the offense that was balling. That was Peyton and I think Noshawn Moreno and Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker and Wes Welker. Julius Thomas was balling out. And that was when the defense was fine, but the 50 team was so much better because it was Vaughn and Derek Wolfe and DeMarcus Ware, Brandon Marshall, TJ Ward, who had a revived career after leaving Cleveland, Darian Stewart, Chris Harris, Aqib Talib. It was just dude, Bradley Roby was their third corner who was coming out of Ohio State that he had I think it was a bad junior year and he dropped in the draft and then Denver took him and I was like, dude, this is I always look up mock drafts super early. I've already looked up next year's because I'm like, oh, let's see.
That's super early.
Day after I look it up. But Roby was a consistently top 10 pick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then he had a bad junior year and then he fell to Denver and Denver took him and he was just so solid as a number 3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that no-fly zone defense was unreal. Everyone talks about the Ravens defense. That no-fly zone doesn't get enough credit for how good they were. They shut down Cam Newton, shut him down. So, we also did that pick the helmet with my nephew and my niece. So we bring the logos in front of him on a laptop because we're more advanced in technology. And he liked birds at the time. So we're he's for sure picking the Cardinals. There's no way he's not picking anything but the Cardinals. So brings it up. He looks and he goes, I like that team. He points to the New York Jets. And my brother just goes, the Jets? He's like, okay. And then my mom's like, say go Jets. He's like, go Jets. I cut the recording because I have it recorded, and my brother goes, "Hey, Bub, why'd you pick the Jets?" He goes, "Because they're green." My brother's an Eagles fan, and he just goes, "Oh!" He's like, "Oh my god!" So, and then my niece picked the Lions because she likes blue, and she's like, "Oh, it looks like a cat." I was like, "Okay."
It is, but
I mean, they're excited. They're two exciting teams for them to watch. We got to take them to the Jets Steelers game last year. There was an AIW show on a Saturday, and then we went on a Sunday. And then my brother's like, "We should go get him autographs." I was like, "We don't have anything for them to sign." I was like, "Why don't they just take a selfie with him?" So I was like, "Okay." So I was losing my voice at the time, so I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs. I was like, "Hey, can you come take a selfie with my nephew? It's his first game." He got like Solomon Thomas, Tyler Conklin, and then some other guys. There was like a handful, but the one that was really cool to me. So guys running off the field, everyone's yelling for him. And I was like, "Can you come take a selfie with my nephew? It's his first game." He's in the tunnel. He turns around, comes, grabs my phone, takes a selfie with my nephew, and it was Sauce Gardner.
Wow.
Super cool. Super cool that he did not have to do that. But like, he also got, I think it was wristbands from Denzel Mims. And I was like, dude, that means nothing to Denzel Mims, and that means everything to him. And he like wore them for like 2 weeks and didn't take them off. But I'm like, he really wanted Zach Wilson. He was a big Zach Wilson fan. We have not told him, obviously, because he's a child, about the MILF Hunter. But I cannot wait to tell him that story when he's an adult, because it's funny. But like, that was the game. I think the Jets ended up coming back, and like, sports books weren't legal at the time in the state of Ohio, and I put on a bet on Zach Wilson to score a touchdown, and my brother's like, "Oh, that's not for him to throw a touchdown, that's for him to score one." And that's when he caught a touchdown in that game. And my brother just looked at me and started laughing, and he's like, "Oh my god." He's like, "How lucky are you?" I was like, I lost super lucky, I guess. But yeah, that was super, super funny. I feel like I go off on a lot of tangents, but whatever. They're fun.
That makes good for a good podcast, and I mean that's kind of what Wrestling Cheers has been known for a very long time. The thing with finding a team, you rarely ever get like a chance to like do something like that,
dude. Yeah.
The only other than like when the XFL showed up, and then, like when you're an adult, you're like, all right, especially because we didn't have one around here, like which one are you gonna root for? I did that kind of for the CFL.
Okay.
And I went like, because I had a podcast that was talking about the NFL. It was called NFL Easy Picks. And then I had some Canadian friends of mine that were like, well, we're going to start CFL Easy Picks.
Ooh.
And like, we want you on it, and we want to like do like a thing with you being a new fan. So you got to pick a team. So I had a list of like all the teams in front of me.
Yeah.
And like where they played. And I'm like, I'm a huge fan of the Hart family. And they play in Vince McMahon Stadium.
Seriously?
It's a different Vince McMahon.
Interesting.
It's not Vincent Kennedy. It's like, I forget. I think there's an initial, and I'm like, I have to root for this team. The first year.
It's the Calgary Stampede. Yeah.
Stampeders.
Oh, okay.
The first year I watched them, they go to the Grey Cup and lose. The second year I watched them, they go to the Grey Cup and lose. The third year, they go to the Grey Cup and fucking win.
There you go. Yeah.
Literally, like, because like the Grey Cup is in November.
Okay.
Because they start their season earlier.
Okay.
So literally, like, I go from like watching a Browns game where, you know, they're embarrassing to watching the Stamps in the Grey Cup being embarrassing. And I'm like, I have to do this for 2 fucking times in one day. This is bullshit. It's bad enough I like the Browns and the Bears. A lot of times they're just as horrible back to back.
Dude, I gave my friends that are Browns fans, when the Browns went 0-16, I said, this is your only out. I said, you can pick any team in the NFL. I will never in my life call you front runner. My one friend goes, yeah, I'm done. And I go, okay, who's your team? And he goes, Titans. And I go, okay. Never have called a front runner ever since. I was like, this is your one out. Like, I will never. You could have been like the Patriots. I was like, you could have picked any team. I don't care. Because I was just like, dude, like, that's so, like, those years were so brutal for you guys. And like, I give the Browns a bunch of crap, but like, that was so brutal, dude. Like, especially too, because who was the one guy that was just supposed to catch I think it was like Corey Coleman. Like, all he had to do was catch a pass, and they may have won the game, and he just dropped it. And I was just like, dude.
Well, no, what it wasn't that he dropped it. I think it was the one that like he could have went out of bounds.
That might be it.
He tried to go for more yards.
Yeah. There was so many years too where like they were just picking guys like Corey Coleman and Justin Gilbert. And I was like, dude, like Manziel. I was like, dude, if you're like a team like the Patriots, you can like maybe gamble on that, but it's like, dude, they were gambling so hard and they had no money to play with, and it was just like, man, like the Justin Gilbert one. I remember my friend he took him and he goes, "Who?" He goes, he's like, "I might be done." He's like, "I don't know if I can take it anymore." You know,
I mean, that's been a lot of your tweets during the draft when the Browns draft somebody. Literally, I've seen so many like two tweets.
Yeah, they've been fine since though. They have Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and
Baker Mayfield.
Who?
Baker
God, dude, that's the one sports take I'm so happy that I was right about. Like, and like I hated him because of what he did to Ohio State, but like, that was the one that I was like super happy that like he stunk, because I was like hammering. I was like, this dude stinks. He's small. He's slow. He has a great arm, but he has no accuracy. Mm-hmm. And like he came in and then like
he had 2 good seasons.
Yeah, he did. But then people got film on him. And that's the stuff too, like I'm arguing with my friends about now with like, which is like this Trey Lance, Brock Purdy stuff. Like Trey Lance is the starter. You don't take someone at 3 and then take someone in the 7th round. It's like, dude, they had a chance to take Brock Purdy 6 rounds before that.
Yeah.
Trey Lance is the starter. And they're like, well, Brock Purdy played better. I was like, dude, let someone get film on him. No, if no one has film on you and you're a pro quarterback, you can go in there and be decent at best. And also, Brock Purdy has sweet weapons to throw to. He's got McCaffrey, he's got Kittle, he's got he's got Deebo Samuel, he's got Brandon Ayuk, and then like he has a sweet defense too with like Fred Warner's like one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Nick Bosa won friggin' Player of the Year. I'm sure they've got more pieces in there. I can't think off the top of my head, but like, yeah, it's like, dude, like no doubt Brock Purdy was gonna be good in that offense. You know, just let Trey Lance, like the guy's played like 8 games. Let him, like, you don't draft someone at 3 and then draft someone at Mr. Irrelevant. Like, everyone talks about Tom Brady about being like the one exception for the 7th round. It's like, dude, no one ever talks about the like thousands of other players that were taken in the 7th round that are garbage and that don't ever make a team and don't ever do anything. Chad Kelly was Broncos Mr. Irrelevant one year. Great in college, incredible, but he couldn't stay out of his own way because he had troubles. I think he got in trouble with the law or something like that. But it's like no one ever talks about Chad Kelly. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, Tom Brady. It's like, dude, stop using Tom Brady as like the like.
Because everybody wants the
yes,
Tom
everyone wants it. That's once in a lifetime. Please let it go. Like, and even too, like my one friend was just like, he always tries to compare someone to Tom Brady. And it's like, dude, you can't. That's the GOAT. Like, he's won 7 Super Bowls. You know how many people have won 2? It's like 8.
Okay, here's what I would say about that part. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls. There isn't a franchise.
Yeah.
There isn't a franchise that has 7.
And he always tries to say that, like, I said, stop using Tom Brady as a standard because he's the GOAT. I was like, I don't know who the standard for quarterbacks would be. It's so tough. That's like people give me crap for, like, I hate Phillip Rivers because, I won't say hate. I just like Phillip Rivers because he has those great numbers, but it's like, dude, he's a loser. Like, same with Justin Herbert.
This is what I'll say when you're talking about, like, you don't hate. A friend of mine said this years ago, because I'm not huge on using the word hate, but when it comes to sports, there's sports hate.
Okay.
You don't necessarily hate them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
No, I hate Baker Mayfield.
Okay. Well, like, I don't hate the Steelers. There's a lot about that franchise I respect. But when it comes to like people that wear that jersey, like on the field, I sports hate you.
Yeah. And I always tell people too, I was like, you know, I obviously grew up with being a huge Steeler fan, and I'm like, they would be my number 2 team. It's like, dude,
they're kind of for your number 2.
Dude,
I've called you out on that a bunch.
Yeah. It's like, dude, how can you hate them though? They draft so well. They're picking dudes like TJ Watt at the end of the 1st round. They picked Cam Hayward. He was like 29th. Cam Hayward's like one of the best interior, like 3-4 interior defensive linemen of all time. Ryan Shazier, I mean, even if his career got cut short, he was an end-round guy. Palomalu, no one, I mean...
I'll always say this, there's not a lot of, like, Steelers players that I love and respect. That's one dude, I would walk up to him, shake his hand, and be like,
so good.
I'm of a player, I'm a fan of you.
And even, too, when you think about, like, Antonio Brown, like, he lost his mind. Antonio Brown, if he would have stayed on course, probably would have been the best receiver of my life. Like, I also say this, too, because I got, like... tail end of Jerry Rice. I don't think Calvin Johnson played long. Like, he was great, but like he didn't play long enough. That's the thing with Terrell Davis too. But like Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Ben. You know, Ben had some hype coming out of Miami of Ohio, but like no one ever saw him being like the dude.
He should have retired before he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is like my biggest criticism on Ben Roethlisberger. And it's not any of the bullshit.
Yeah, on the off field.
Yeah, it's not the off field. Like there was a time where I can't remember the year. I was watching NFL Network and it was like preseason, and he was saying like, yeah, I've had some like issues with my shoulder, but I, in so many words, like I didn't do rehab, I didn't do this, it just did with, and then like he got injured in the season. I'm like, dude, how fucking dumb are you?
Yeah, the signs are right there.
Like you could have like did shit out the off season to like help fix it and all this kind of stuff, but you decide, oh no, I'm better and better than that, and you pay for it. Sorry.
Well, even the thing too is like I just thought of like when you said that, like they had Charlie Batch as a backup, and like Charlie Batch was a great backup. Like my mom always said, she's like, if Charlie's in the game, don't have to worry about it. And then even had like Heath Miller, like it was so good for them for so many years. Fantasy football legend for me. Like he was always my second like tight end that I would take. But they always just find these guys. Like Joe Hayden had like a career revive when he left. Like I know it stinks, but like he had like a career revive. Oh, those are my keys. But he had like a career revive when he went to Pittsburgh, and they just have all these guys that are just so good, and not like, I mean, they were like highly touted coming out of college, but like I remember we're sitting at my apartment with my friend, and Pittsburgh is on the clock, and I just look at him and I go, TJ Watt? He goes, oh no. He's like, saying ain't so. They come up, read the card. He was more mad. I think he was more mad about TJ going to the Steelers than the Browns getting Myles Garrett, which is crazy. Because he also threatened to jump off the balcony if the Browns didn't take Myles Garrett, which was funny. But he ended up not doing that, obviously, thank goodness.
The thing I remember the most about Myles Garrett being drafted because it was back-to-back with the Bears. And I did not want the Browns to take Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, man, that would have...
And, like, we got Myles Garrett. I'm like, yes. And then, like, as I'm listening on the radio, because I wasn't watching live, I was at work. And then they're like, actually, no, the Bears traded up.
Bears traded up with the Niners?
I can't remember who. But
I think because you guys were third, and then you just flip picks.
I think that's what it was.
Because then the Niners took Solomon Thomas.
They traded. Number one, they traded up. I don't remember what they gave up, but I always say they sold the farm to get him.
Probably.
And they had just signed or re-signed Mike Glennon.
Shout out.
For a lot of money. And I'm like,
I remember that, yeah.
How do you shoot yourselves in the foot twice?
Twice, yeah.
In like a few months. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm like happy, like, oh, fucking the Browns didn't take me. We're not doing this hometown boy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, the Bears have traded up. I'm like, no. And of course, like, I thought I was going to be wrong about him. Had the playoff appearance, not run. Yeah. His first season. So it's like, all right, cool. And then since
well, everyone always talks to like they should have taken Patty. It's like, no, the pick there was Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. I didn't know much about Patty coming out of Texas Tech, Patty Mahomes, but I think now with Justin Fields, like obviously biased, like his season last year was unreal. That picture of him sliding into the end zone and he's just like so pumped. I'm like, that's the coolest picture of all time.
Yeah.
I obviously love Justin Fields. I'm finally happy they got like DJ Moore to surround him. They've got some weapons to surround Justin Fields finally. Now they have to protect him. So I hope he does well.
We have talked a lot on this one, but it's time to wrap things up with the Fave 5 questions.
Hey, this is Booker T, 5-time champ, and this is the Fave 5 questions. Now, can you dig it?
Okay.
Let's start off with favorite arcade game.
Favorite arcade game? Oh my goodness.
And meaning like arcade cabinet.
Yeah. So we used to have our birthday parties at a place called Rocco's in Akron when I was younger, and they had a bunch. They obviously had NBA Jam. They had was there Turtles in Time?
There's Turtles in Time.
Okay. And then what's the Battletoads?
Battletoads is another one.
Battletoads might be my favorite, to be honest. Ooh, because I just remember playing it so much when I was a kid at Rocco's that like I just loved the game. I would say that NBA Jam Tournament Edition was great. NFL Blitz, as I'm wearing an NFL Blitz shirt.
Yeah.
Because I'm the Broncos on there, and I just bomb it to Shannon Sharp the entire time. So, but if I had to do one, probably Battletoads.
Classic. I think for me, it always depends. But Simpsons Arcade.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolute classic. I mean, I have like my own list, but like if it came to like if I were to buy a cabinet, that one, because it's like the only one for the most part, you could never get on like a game console. They did release it, I know, for a period, which I bought it, but not obviously.
Did they ever do Battletoads on?
I mean, it was
system?
on it was on Nintendo, but I don't know if it's the same arcade graphics.
Yeah.
Question number 2: favorite video game console of all time?
Ooh, man.
Because I know you were a gamer. I had that on the list of like topics.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause didn't you like beat Johnny Gargano?
Oh, smoked him. Smoked him and Dominic Guarini. Smoked them both. Yeah. Smoked him might be an understatement because I think I beat Dom like 70-0. The last play of the game, I got a safety. Yeah, I smoked Dom. It was rough. It was a rough time for Mr. Bone Collector Dominic Guarini. Favorite video game system of all time. So I think there's 2 answers. So N64, we started with Super Nintendo and like Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and Turtles in Time was on that, I'm pretty sure. So that's what my dad played with me and my brother when we were little. N64, we would play. That's where I got introduced to Madden 2000. My dad would play racing games on there, and he was like insanely good at NASCAR. We'd play boxing, which my dad was great at, and then Kobe Bryant courtside because that was Kobe Bryant's first game. So N64 is up there. I'm gonna give 3. So Super Nintendo, N64, and then probably PlayStation 3 because that's where like me and my like close group of friends got like integrated. That I'm still with friends with to this day. We always have a group chat, and our we would just be the D330, and it was the Dirty 330, and it started with like me and my 2 buddies, and then we added another friend that we worked with at Acme, and then my friends went to college, and they met. My friends Greg and Sherman went to college. My friend Greg met my friend Tyler. My friend Tyler knew my friend Chad, and then it just like has grown to this like I think there's probably 9 of us now, and like we still to this day like the group chat like every morning we always talk, and we always talk at night. We still talk to this day. Like my buddy John's in the military. He's currently in Virginia. Everyone else I think is in Ohio at the moment. But even when I was in like Florida, I like made it a point. I'm like, I'm going to get on and play video games with my friends tonight. If it's for 1 hour, I'm going to play either Call of Duty or Fortnite or Madden or baseball or whatever. I was like, I'm making it a point to play with my friends. So, but it's a 3-way tie between Super Nintendo and 64 and PlayStation 3 for different reasons.
For me, it's Super Nintendo for nostalgia.
Yeah,
like
so
that was my first system at home, and I still love it to this day.
Yeah.
Question number 3: Oreos or Chips Ahoy?
Ooh, double stuffed Oreos.
Not mega stuff.
No, that's like too much. The most stuff is like too much. It's too much. Like
I say bullshit, but yeah, I mean,
I'll eat them if they're there. I'm not going to be rude and be like no. Yeah, I would say Oreos. The best flavor they ever had, though, again, it was when my wife was in college. She went to Kent State. They had this flavor. It was mallow, crispy Oreos, and they were Rice Krispies flavored. Unbelievable. And they've never been back. And I've never been more sad in my life.
I think I remember those.
They were so good. They were the best flavor of Oreos ever. But
they also did like a Fruity Pebbles one.
Those were super good. I haven't had the S'moreos that are out. I had the like the triple chocolate cake ones that are just released.
Those are good.
Those are really good too. Yeah, I agree.
It's like just there's like different kinds of chocolate.
Yeah, those are really good. But if the best Oreos are the ones at Christmas time, the white fudge Oreos, yeah, those.
I think this was like the first year I didn't buy a box, or maybe we bought a box, but it was like towards the end. Normally, like as soon as they come out, I buy at least
same. So the 1 year we bought like 6 boxes of them, and my wife, because we couldn't find them anywhere. Okay. My wife and I we ate them. I just looked at her. I'm like, I am so sick of these, and she's like, they're so good though. I was like, I know, but I'm so sick of them. And then we bought like 2 boxes every year since, and we like rationed them out to last us through the holidays.
All right, question number 4: wings, bone in or out?
Oh, bone in. Boneless are like they're not chicken nuggets because like I don't know.
I like the chicken nugget analogy because when someone said, or basically it can't be a wing because wings are dark meat and nuggets are white meat.
Remember when McDonald's had the dark meat nuggets when we were kids?
Yeah.
And then they advertised they're like now with all white meat, and I was like, why aren't these with white meat? Like I don't know. It's weird. It's just a weird now. Like I remember that when I was a kid. But yeah, bone in, lemon pepper from Wingstop. My friends are we always talk about food and stuff like that. Like, so again, a tangent. I don't care though. I love lemon pepper wings from Wingstop. That's my favorite. My friends are like, oh, have you had the Hawaiian? Have you had the mango habanero? Like, yeah, I have. But I'm like, lemon pepper from Wingstop is like king.
Okay,
It's my favorite.
Hold on. Have you had it lemon pepper wings down south?
I've not.
Because I've interviewed AC Mack and Alex Kane.
Oh, yeah.
And they both, let me grant, they're both from Atlanta.
Yep.
Or at least Georgia.
Yeah.
And because they always talk about how great lemon pepper was. And,
Yes.
I'm like, and they explain theirs is a wet lemon pepper. And I'm like,
yeah.
Because I like lemon pepper, but
yeah,
it being a rub, I'm not a huge fan. But I'm like, if I find a wet version, I want them.
So when I was in NXT, Aja, who I love dearly, and she is...
You dropped the name.
Yeah, I'm going to pick it up. Aja, she deserves every good thing to ever happen to her in life. Her and Leon both saved me on so many occasions. Just a great human being and a great ref. She made us hot lemon pepper wings, and they were the best wings I've ever had in my life. Like, they were so good, so delicious, crispy, like everything. So it was like a combination of like lemon pepper and hot. And it was just unbelievable. But my friends are always like, lemon pepper's gross. And the most recent one they tried to like not crucify me for, but they're like, what's your favorite candy? I was like, Almond Joy.
Mm-hmm.
I love Almond
I just don't like almonds.
So they're like, coconut's gross. I was like, dude. But
I'll still fuck with some mounds though.
Yeah, I like mounds too. I like dark chocolate better than milk chocolate, but I'm like like Almond Joy is my favorite. And my boy's like, yeah, let me get a coconut bar. So like, I went to Giant Eagle. I got in my car. I went to Giant Eagle and I just grabbed a full bag of Almond Joys, put them in my cart. And my boy's like, yeah, no wonder the shelf's full. I was like, listen, because it was a thing there. They were like, they're like, eliminate one candy from this like picture, and everyone kept saying Almond Joy. I was like, did you guys ignore the Raisinets that are on here? I was like, come on.
Hold on. I mean, I like Raisinets, but for a movie can.
I don't like I don't like fruit in my chocolate.
I love me some chocolate covered raisins.
Here was the thing. So I'll show it to you. No one at home, but everyone kept saying they kept saying Almond Joy. Like Good and Plenty's on there.
Oh yeah, you got Good and Plenty on there.
Yeah.
Fuck those.
Yeah, Good and Plenty stink. Mike and Ike's like get stuck in your teeth.
It's a movie theater candy. That's not what I'm gonna like buy.
But if I'm going to the movie theater though, I'm grabbing popcorn. I'm putting Bunch of Crunch in there or Reese's Pieces and being a real devil and just like shaking it up and then
maybe a York peppermint patty. Like
that was the other one.
I like peppermint patties.
I do too.
I've never. When's the last time you craved a peppermint patty?
Never. Yeah, that's really.
There's a lot of other good ones.
I crave Almond Joy, which is weird because like my friends are just like, it's so gross. I was like, you're gross, dude.
I find Almond Joy normal. I mean, like I said, I prefer
my mom used to tell me that they were like bad. Like she's like, you guys wouldn't like these when we were kids, and she would take them all out of our Halloween basket. And now I'm like, I'm like, man, I was like, you took the best candy out of the yeah. So,
question number 5. Had a good one. Oh, Step Brothers or Talladega Nights?
Oh my gosh, man, that's really good. That's a really good question. Man, I'm a huge Will Ferrell fan too. I would say Step Brothers. I feel like Talladega Nights like drags on a little bit too long for me, which is weird. Because like there's the part where he gets divorced and then like Susan is like his new wife and whatever, and then they go out to eat in Applebee's and they like Reese ruins it. And then there's a part where he like after he gets set on fire from the crash, it kind of drags for me a little bit. Step Brothers is so funny. I love Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly together. I think my favorite Will Ferrell movie though is Semi-Pro.
Why did I know you were going to say that?
Oh, I love Semi-Pro. It's so funny when he tells the guy if he makes the full court shot that he's gonna like win like $50,000. The guy makes it and he's just like, yeah, you want a giant check for $50,000. And then he's like, who the hell has $50,000? Meanwhile, the franchise is like hemorrhaging money. And he just did that just to get people in the building. And then he wrestled Dewey the Bear. Oh yeah, that Semi-Pro is so funny. Yeah, it's oh my goodness. But if I had to choose one out of that, I would say Step Brothers.
Yeah, I've said before, I'm more of a Talladega Nights fan, but there's no right or wrong answer. Like,
No, I love Will Ferrell, except for when he's in The Office. Hot take, not a fan of Will Ferrell as Angelo in The Office. I think he ruined the part when they were singing 5,586,000 minutes to him because he tried to be like improv funny. It was just like, no, just let them sing to Steve.
I don't know. There's a lot to that show that a lot of people don't like, and I'm like, you know what? It's if you go back and watch it, like.
I do every night. I watch The Office every night. That's my show. Like my wife and I are winding down. We're in bed, and she's like, "What do you want to watch?" I was like, "I'm throwing on The Office," and I'll watch just whatever. That or South Park. Those are my two episodes or shows that I watch. When
thing that I like about The Office, I feel like it has one of the best series finales. Like
I can't watch it. I'll cry. I can't watch that or when Jim and Pam get married. I cry every time, every single time.
I know I've said it before, like when Aaron's parents.
Yeah.
Because even watching the show, you're not expecting here's her parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
They sneak that one in on you, and it's oh, fuck.
I think Michael Scott is the greatest written character in television history. Because he just does so many things that are just so funny that me and my friends always talk about is when he's like when he's using the restroom, Kevin's like, Michael, did you die in there? Are you okay? He goes, just pooping. You know how I be. And this is so funny. And just so many little things that he does that you catch. Yeah. The first time you watch and you're like, oh, this is funny. And then you catch it the second time and you're like, oh, okay, this is hilarious. Mm-hmm. I just watched the one where he hit Meredith with his car. And he's just like, doctors did all they could do to save her life. And they were successful. And then Stanley's like, what is wrong with you? He's like, why did you have to word it that way? It's so funny. And it's such a good rewatch, too. I've probably watched The Office through 5 or 6 times, except for I skip Pam and Jim's wedding because I cry up until the part where they're right about to get married. And they start walking down the aisle and they play Forever by Chris Brown. I stop there and then I pick it up whatever they pick up that. Yeah, I can't watch that part because it makes me cry.
How do you feel about How I Met Your Mother?
I've never watched it.
Okay.
I know.
That's one of those controversial last episode things, and I'm like, I will defend it to the day I die.
That's why
people say it's horrible, and I'm like, no, you watched the fucking show wrong.
That's why I don't watch Game of Thrones, is because everyone complained about the finale. I was like, why am I going to watch this? And then the one part that I'm like, yes, this is going to be great. And then it just stinks. Also, I got by Netflix, allegedly. I share a password, allegedly, with my parents, allegedly.
Allegedly?
Yeah, and I got smoked by them recently. I was trying to finish Stranger Things and get caught up.
Allegedly.
And I had 3 or 4 episodes to go. Mike stinks. Do you watch Stranger Things?
Oh, yeah, I love him.
Mike stinks. He's selfish. He's a selfish friend.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to that show.
I don't like Nancy either. I don't know.
Fair.
This could be controversial, the most controversial takes. Mike stinks. I don't know. Whatever. Probably big Mike fans out there like, he's not. Whatever.
No, I've watched videos where people talk about that aspect.
Yeah, he's very selfish. Oh.
The only defense I'll give him, it's he's also a fucking teenager.
Yeah.
When you're a teenager, you don't really know shit.
Yeah.
Shit I did as a teenager.
He was in love. I also like Breaking Bad. Walter in that was incredible. Skyler might be the worst character in TV history. Did you watch Breaking Bad?
I watched the first season.
Okay.
And I've always explained that I watched Weeds first, and I felt like it was too much like Weeds, but Weeds was funny.
Okay.
Because Breaking Bad isn't supposed to be funny. It's a little more dramatic.
Dude,
than
Walter's
Weeds.
So intense. My wife won't even watch it. She's like, it's too intense for me. And I was like, I don't know, man. Walter's so great in that, and Skylar's the worst character ever. I guess her, the actress that played her got death threats. And I was like, do you people not realize that's not her in real life? But people can't change that, escape that reality. I don't know. It's weird.
That's when you got to tell them, it's fake, right?
Oh, man. For real.
All right. Question number 6. It's a constant one that I like doing for our football fans. Give me your prediction for the Broncos season record at the
16.
end of this is your one out.
0-16. Russ throws 400 interceptions. Javonte Williams tears his ACL again. Jerry Jeudy gets hurt somehow. Cortland Sutton gets hurt somehow. Look at their schedule. I don't know, because I'm going to be honest with you. No one expected the Broncos season last year. Not a single person expected the Broncos to be as bad as they were. No one. If you did, you're a liar. Because
they got Russell Wilson. You think like, oh my God, this is great after Geno Smith. And Geno Smith goes to fucking Seattle and tears it up.
And then Geno Smith has the career, whatever. So I'm looking at the roster right now. This is nothing new. I really liked the Samaje Perine signing at 27. Great backup. Great running back at Oklahoma. I really liked the Marvin Mims pick. Tim Patrick's going to be back and healthy. Greg Dulcich was great. I need Albert Okwuegbunam to figure it out. We spent money on the offensive line with Ben Powers and with Mike McGlinchey, which was a nice surprise. Just added Frank Clark, which I like. DJ Jones was good last year. I need our linebackers to be healthy. Man, let's look at their roster now. People need to start respecting Justin Simmons, put some respect on his name as well, because he is very, very, very good. We start with the Cardinals. 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 2-4, 3-4, 4-5, 4-6, 4-7, 4-8, 4-9, 4-10, 5-10, 6-10, 6-11, 6-12, 7-12, 7-13, 8-13 is my math, right? My math's terrible. I'm so bad at math. I used to watch
7-13.
7-13. Sure, we'll go with that.
What?
7 plus. No, 20. That's so. How did I get so bad? Wow, that went off the rails really quick. And to be fair, I used to watch Ring of Honor in the back of math class. Yeah.
So 5-13 or
7-11
or not 5-13
would be 7-10. I don't know, 7-10.
I miss when it was 16.
We're gonna win
games.
7 games. There you go. Yeah, dude.
Okay.
It's 7 games.
I miss when it was 16 games because it was very easy.
That went off the rails real quick. Man. Yeah, 7 games. Maybe 6 or 7 games. Yeah. Depends on what Russ shows up. If they let Russ cook and all the receivers are healthy, I love it. They have 5. Sutton, Judy, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, and Marvin Mims. 5 legitimate receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to block for him, and I don't know. And the refs need to stop calling stuff for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, how does that feel with Kansas City doing so good?
Brutal, because their fan base stinks. Their fan base is awful. They complain about everything. I was like, they did a poll on Twitter, and I saw a graphic where it was like the teams that complain about the refs the most, and Kansas City was like by and large like number 1. And I was like, you guys get every call. Watch the Super Bowl. Like, was that a penalty at the end? Yes. Do you just let them play? Yes. Like, I don't know. I don't like Mahomes, and I think Travis Kelce is very cringy. Whatever. Good podcast though.
All right. Any final thoughts or last minute plugs before we go? That's it.
No, just I'm glad we did this. Sorry it took so long. I'm very hesitant about going on podcasts. Like, I talked with the guys at Pod Van Dam about how guarded I am about being on podcasts, because like when I got released, everyone, like, people hit me up and was like, let's do a podcast. I was like, let's not. Like,
I even said, I remember hitting you up about that time, but it's like, we're not going to talk dirt.
Yeah, and that's what,
I don't want to talk dirt.
One guy wanted me to. I wish I could drop his name right now, and I should, but I'm not going to do that. But he was just like, hey, like, I had worked shows with this person in the past. Not anyone from this area, but I had worked shows with this person in the past, and I just want to be like, you want me on your podcast, but you've never said hello to me? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to ask me to do something, do it. Like, at least say hello to me. That's like the bare minimum you could do, is to say hello to me at shows, not take advantage of me after the fact that, like, you know, I had been to WWE and whatever. But this is great. Like, I wish every podcast talked, it sounds bad, but talked less about wrestling and more about like people's real lives and stuff like that. I don't even think we talk about much wrestling, like the first like 10 minutes, and then we're just like everything else, which is great.
The wrestling stuff we talk about is like not necessarily stuff is like you're going to have talked about on other podcasts.
Yeah.
Or even just in general. Like, there are too many people out there that, like I've said before, that do podcasts that they want a person on to like maybe help them out. So it's like, so where did you train?
Where did you train? What's your first match? What's your favorite match?
Yeah. And it's like these questions that are cookie cutter, and it's just like, oh, you know, I can download 5 other podcasts that say the same shit. Mm-hmm. Like, you didn't do any homework. And then with me, even like, if I would have did the podcast with you right after you got released, we would have talked very similar to what we did today.
Yeah.
Like, there's no difference.
Yeah, and that's what I would have needed. I wouldn't have wanted people to be like, so how was it going to NXT and being at rehearsals for 12 hours a day?
What was Triple H like?
Yeah, what was Triple H like? And fine. Like, that's what it would have been, too. And I didn't need that at that time because it would have been really bad because, like, obviously I was upset that I lost my dream job and, you know, it is what it is. Life has a weird way of working things out, but I always tell my wife, I'm like, you know, if I wouldn't have gotten released, we wouldn't have gotten married. It's the biggest thing. I wouldn't have my cats. Like, I wouldn't be back here doing this. I wouldn't, like, as much as I say, like, I'm like, man, I'm ready to leave. Like, I love the indies. I love it.
You want to throw other social media plugs?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Just, you'll find me. I'm not, like, I also, this is another rant, and this isn't the PBR. I've had one PBR. Everyone relax. I heard someone say super early into my career, they're like, my life is not defined by the social media followers I have. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, man, that's wild. And like, if you want to follow me, cool. If you don't, fine. Like, if you do follow me, it's going to be like my wrestling posters, clips of me playing MLB The Show and absolutely smoking people, or clips of Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Follow Wrestling Cheers. How about that?
Yeah, but the show's on. So it doesn't even fucking matter.
Well, then unfollow him. Follow Justin.
Yeah, Jay Summers 330.
There you go.
But okay, yeah. Thanks, Jake. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, dude, thank you.
So yes, there you have it. The interview with referee Jake Clemons. It was partially done in the interview, but we'll finish everything up right now, just like we always do. Of course, you can find myself at jsummers330 on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Hive, much like you can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/Wrestling Cheers, Twitter.com/Wrestling Cheers, and Instagram.com/Wrestling Cheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, wrestlingcheers@gmail.com. Like I said earlier in the show, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this fine podcast. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. All those links can be found in the leak tree in our show notes. But I'll be honest, with the show ending soon, does it really matter? I don't know, but that's just me. But you can check out our other podcast friends, such as Hiya Pussy, a wrestling adjacent podcast, super fantastic podcast, It's Evolution Baby, the IndieCast, Sobros Network, Biff Radio, Gay Marks Podcast, Powerbomb Jitsu, Pile Driver Podcast, Fully Posable, Positively Pro Wrestling, Indie Wrestling Guide, If You Catch My Grift, Marks with Mikes, Juggalo Rewind, 20x20 Rewind, X Over, and This Ends at Prom. Check out our other non-podcasting friends such as The Mystery Men, Redline Radio, Mouse's Wrestling Adventure, VHS Party Tonight on Instagram, and connected to that, Danger Zone Video in Juliet, Tennessee, ran by our friend Righteous Jesse, Heart of Gold, Toy Hio Toy Show, Time Capsule Toys, Smoking Jace Barbecue, 20x20 Apparel, JCP Designs, Midwest Territory, if it still exists, Southern Underground Pro, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, except for if you're that person that was with me at that show in Indiana, because we bleep that out later.
It's the Wrestling Cheers. Get up on your feet, brightening your day in the middle of the week. And you gotta love the show. Yeah, you know it holds a title for the best podcast. Talking wrestling in Ohio. Finishing a cold one, take a load off. We ain't all about the prohibition like Josh, so we cheers. And then we sit back. Other shows are in the trash, kinda like they Nick Stapp. Like the name is Matt Justice, wearing all the gold. Wrestling Cheers is coming to a close. The #1 podcast going in the game. And one day everybody's gonna know the name. It's the Wrestling Cheers. This is Platinum Max, signing off. Ohio, good night. The world, good night. We love you. We'll see you next week.